I guess you can go with Venom in two ways. If you're okay with its super stupidity and silliness, then this film will be good for you. But if you wanted something at least a little bit more serious or a little bit more tonally consistent, it's mostly a frustrating, annoying experience. But it does get the job done. It goes from A to B. Its CGI and performances and most things in it are competent. The music was a little stronger than I expected, but for the most part, it's pretty disappointing. It really doesn't say or do anything much, and the best I can get for it is it tries to do a lot of physical comedy with Tom Hardy and the symbiote, but that's about it. Beyond that, it's just a lot of meandering building up to the major fight between Carnage and Venom at the end. The fight itself is not even that long, but they get to it. I thought the church setting was appropriate. It's a callback to the comic books. In fact, ironically, there's a ton of little Easter eggs to the various Spider-Man and Venom comics, but they're all over the place. They're kind of copy and pasted from different eras, so they don't make sense being brought together. It's very frustrating to even try to figure out. Again, if you are a fan of Venom in the late 90s to the 2000s and various media, like the video games and some of the cartoons, then you might really enjoy this. So let's get to it. So what is happening? Well, essentially, and there's really not much in terms of plot, but basically, Venom gets involved with Carnage, who is a serial killer. It's going to be non-spoiler, but you have to give this a little bit of spoiler. Apparently, Carnage bites Venom, and that's how he becomes Carnage. Don't ask. He just does. And Eddie Brock is sort of just being forced into the case by Toxin, who is a detective in this story. And Shriek is the lover of Carnage. That's sort of true in the comics, but not really. They've really, again, changed a lot of things. So Carnage, of course, wants to free Shriek, and then the two of them are going to confront Venom. And it's very straightforward. They even have a scene where they literally bait Venom into going into the church at the very end. It's all very explicitly about getting to the big fight, and just in the meantime, Carnage goes around destroying things, Shriek destroys things, and I guess you could say that Eddie and Carnage have kind of this separation anxiety or this very weird clashing of personalities. It's really all over the place. It's really weird. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Now, in terms of the queer controversy, I'm still surprised a lot of people don't think this was a major thing. It is a major scene, but it's a little strange. Essentially, what happens is that the symbiote separates from Brock, and so the symbiote goes to the club. And actually, that's one of the more charming scenes, and it is funny. And the symbiote just does this weird long speech and, quote, comes out, but it's the symbiote, not Brock. But I don't think that was distortive. So when the director says that Venom is coming out, literally Venom comes out, but not Brock. The symbiote does. And there's a lot of other movies in this. It's partly queer, it's partly a comedy, it's partly a romance, it's partly an action movie. It's even an Oliver Stone movie because they're alluding to Natural Born Killers with Woody Harrelson. There's other kinds of movies too. It's kind of a food documentary because there's a lot of shots of food over and over again in this movie. So this is kind of just a marketing mess of just kind of tapping into almost every kind of demographic or audience that would really like this. And some people say Carnage is a lot in this film. I don't think so. To me, he was just a major cameo. And if you are into Carnage, this is kind of very tame version of Carnage. They do a lot to sort of soften him being a serial killer. So if you are a Carnage fan, I would think this is actually a little subpar, but I'm not the biggest Carnage fan, so I didn't really care. So it's short. I was not bored because, again, it zips by fairly quickly, but would I recommend it? Well, I'm giving it a severe 5.75, but if you like its super stupidity and silliness, then you'll find most of it bearable. I did not, but I can see why people do like it. It is hilarious and unintentionally funny in most places, even when they don't intend comedy. It is just you'll just probably laugh at most of it because it is pretty dumb and incoherent. And yes, the post-credit scenes does put Venom in the MCU very roughly. Jokes happen. Some will work, some will not. Worst of all time, I can see it make the list on many levels that it is a worst of all time, but I don't think this will make that many people angry. It's just a very frustrating experience. And that's where I sit with Venom, Let There Be Carnage, because there's not much real carnage in this. It's just a lot of dumb jokes and a lot of dumb action scenes, and that's it, being spliced together.